Again to another program of Issues in the News, where we discuss the important events that would have taken place in Guyana over the past week or so. And as is the norm, we always have a packed agenda of issues to discuss. I want to begin by welcoming our viewers who are joining us from on television from region number 5, West Coast Berbice. Welcome to another program of Issues in the News across the Berbice River, along the coast of the Berbice River, New Amsterdam, Kanji, along the Quarantine Coast, and all the way up to Siparuta and Uriala. All of you on the eastern side of our country joining us on television, welcome to another program of Issues in the News. To our brothers and sisters who are joining us on Freedom Radio from Robb Street, Georgetown, welcome to another program of Issues in the News. And last but not least, to the thousands of you who are joining us on Facebook Live across the length and breadth of Guyana, the Caribbean, North America, Europe, Asia, Australia, Afghanistan, and so many of you, welcome to another program of Issues in the News. Share this live, share this program, press that share button on your phone so that you, your friends, and all your followers can join us in tonight's discussion. Rajin Datadin, Natasha Lee, Kiran Rama, Victoria Pereira, Chad Dwarka Prasad, and the thousands of you who have joined us on tonight Facebook Live, welcome and share the program. Share the program so that all your friends and all your followers can join us in tonight's discussion. Tomorrow we will be celebrating Mahashivaratri in Guyana. And I want to take this opportunity to extend Shivaratri greetings to all Guyanese and all my listeners and viewers, more particular my Hindu brothers and sisters. Mahashivaratri is one of the most auspicious occasion on the Hindu calendar. It is a time to do penance, it's a time to do prayers, it's a time to do worship at the feet of Lord Shiva, the destroyer of all evils, darkness, negativity, sickness, and ills from your life and from your future. So tomorrow Hindus across this land will assemble in large numbers at mandirs to offer their salutations and prayers to Mahashiva. So once again, Shivratri greetings to all of you, in particular my Hindu brothers and sisters, wherever you are located. Last week, we commissioned a spanking new magistrates court at Mabaruma in region number 1. And again, you got a glimpse of the investments which our government is making in the legal sector of our country to ensure that there is access to justice, that there is equitable access to justice to all of our citizens wheresoever they are located. As I said at the opening of that court, the facilities that are available in that court or at that court are comparable with facilities anywhere else in Guyana and outside of Guyana. all modern amenities and facilities are present in that court and will be offered to the users of that court in that distant place called the Northwest region or the Northwest district of Mabaruma. A few months ago, we commissioned a similar facility at Port Kaituma in Region 1 as well. So when we speak of a transformation taking place in our country, it is not words. Well, it is not merely words. We are not speaking in abstract. We can point to edifices and physical structures and real things to demonstrate and support the transformation to which we make reference. At the opening of that court, I was offered the opportunity to speak. And among the things that I touched on in my very brief remarks is something that must be concerning to lawyers and the general public, but more particularly those in the judiciary. Now, when COVID came, we all had to adapt and we all had to innovate. And in attempting to continue to operate in those circumstances, we innovated and we began to communicate by different electronic platforms. And we did so in the court system as well. And we began to have electronic hearing of cases. And that has become now a permanent feature of our legal system. And it has brought great benefits. It has reduced a lot of time wasting. It has saved a lot of money because you don't have to travel to distant places to go to court. You don't have to take prisoners from prison centers to different courts across the country because we have established electronic courts, e-courts, at all the prison centers. And the prisoners can go to those containers where there is a huge TV that is electronically connected to the court, and they can appear virtually in those containerized environment, and that virtual appearance would constitute an appearance for the purpose of the court. Lawyers also appear virtually. Magistrates, judges, even at the CCJ, we appear virtually. So it's a good thing. However, there are some legal issues that have arisen. And one of those issues relate to something that I've observed occurring in the magistrate's court. And in the course of my presentation, I drew it to the attention of both the Chancellor and the Chief Justice. And from their interaction, I interpret that they agree with my sentiments. And it is this: magistrates are conducting criminal cases in relation to defendants who are outside of the jurisdiction. So a person is charged, and for whatever reason, they are permitted to leave the jurisdiction, they go, and they expect to remain overseas and attend court virtually for criminal proceedings. That is not permissible in law. The reasons are simple and would be known to any lawyer who understands law. And it is this: criminal jurisdiction is territorial. And a criminal court can only exercise jurisdiction over you if you are within the jurisdiction of the court. There is more logic in that than law. So if you are outside of the jurisdiction of the court can't try you because you are not within the jurisdiction of the court. The court can't exercise a jurisdiction over you when you are beyond the jurisdiction of the court. If you are found guilty, the court can't sentence you. The court can't deliver you to the prison authorities. The court can exercise coercive jurisdiction and power over you because you are not within the reach of the court, the jurisdictional reach of the court. Now there is a difference between that situation and a situation where a person may refuse to submit to the jurisdiction of the court and either has been served with a summons and is refusing to appear before the court, or absconds, so is granted bail and jumps the territory, leaves the country, jumps bail. Obviously, the fleeing of that person from the jurisdiction of the court cannot render the court impotent. If that is so, then every person who is charged, once granted bail, all they have to do is to escape. And the court would lose its jurisdiction. The law, as I always say, is based upon common sense. So if such a situation occurs, where a person either refuses to submit to the jurisdiction of the court, or absconds, or flees the jurisdiction of the court has a power, and the law has given the court a power, to adopt a particular process and proceed to hear and try the case ex parte, in which case a sentence can be imposed if the person decides not to come forward to defend him or herself in the court. And the process is that you first have to issue an arrest warrant. Then if the police goes and say that they can't find the man, they go into the witness box and they give that evidence on the oath. That arrest warrant is recalled, and then the magistrate proceeds ex parte to hear the case, because the magistrate would then have been convinced that the person is not prepared to submit him or herself to the jurisdiction of the court. In that case, the person will be sentenced in absentia. Or the case may be dismissed if the prosecution does not prove a case. But the law does not permit a person to fly out of a country, fly out of the country, and does not return for the case to continue. And the court has no power to proceed by permitting that person to appear virtually. So I hope that process will be looked into, and the appropriate actions taken. Last week, the APNU AFC issued a long press statement dedicated to me in relation to what I said on this very program. And it has to do with my contention that they did not file any objection during the claims and objections period because they did not have and they do not have evidence of the bloat about which they are complaining on the list of registrants. Because I am contending that there is one forum, among many others, that you can come forward and establish both to GCOM and to the public that your contentions are accurate, that the voters list have bloat or is bloated. In other words, there are persons on that list who should not be on that list. And the claims and objections period or mechanism is one of the mechanisms, perhaps the easiest mechanism for you to come forward and lodge, identify the names and lodge an objections to them. They are alleging that there are tens of thousands, not 5, not 100, not 1,000, not 5,000. They are alleging that there are tens of thousands of persons on that list who should not be on the list. And I am saying to them that the law in its wisdom has provided a mechanism that when such a situation obtains, you have a period when you can go to GCOM and lodge an objection to the names that you claim should not be on the list. I reported to you, as GCOM reported to the public, that during the last claims and objections period, not one objection was lodged by the opposition. Not one. And I continue to say that their claim of tens of thousands of bloat on the list is a fanciful one. It's one that is without merit and one that they cannot prove in any forum. The claims and objections provided a platform. Claims and objections mechanism provided a platform for them not to prove the tens of thousands, to prove one. And that's what I said on the program. Not tens of thousands, prove 5, prove 10. You cannot prove 1, and you expect any self-respecting organization or sensible person to take you seriously? That is my contention, and I will read their response to me. Last week, Attorney General Anil Nandlall, in an act of public deception, offered the ridiculous argument that because GCOM's recent report showed no claims and objections were received from the opposition, then no tangible evidence exists to substantiate the claim that the list is heavily flawed and unfit for credible elections. But what else you want somebody, you want GCOM and you want the rest of the country and the international community to accept your ipsit dixit? That is what you want because you say that the list is in an unsatisfactory state, then we must accept that, GCOM must accept that, the international community must accept that, the Guyanese population must accept that, and you who making the allegation is not putting forward a scintilla of evidence to support the ridiculous contention that you are advancing. That is what you are telling the population. How can any sensible human being take you seriously? Let me continue. First of all, the claims and objection process is not designed to handle large volume of objections and cannot therefore purge the list of tens of thousands of names in excess as a result of death or fraud. So they said that the claims and objection mechanism is not designed to handle large bundle, to purge the list of tens of thousands of names in excess as a result of fraud or death. First of all, I don't know that the claims and objections period got the limitations that they are imposing upon it. I don't know that it cannot take off the volume, if the volume exists. If the volume of claims exist, I don't know that the system can't handle it. But the crucial issue is, it must be able to handle 5 claims or objections. It must be able to handle 10. It can't handle 10,000 according to you, but it can't handle 10. You couldn't bring 10. You couldn't bring 5. You couldn't bring 1. You are so hopeless and incompetent. You can't put forward prove one case, and then you can say, look, we have proven 1, and we can prove 10,000 more. No, you can't do that. But we must accept, the rest of the country must accept your inane ramblings that tens of thousands of persons are on the list who should not be there. But you can't produce evidence of 1. I don't know how people take you seriously, honestly. How people take this opposition seriously, I don't know. But let's go on. The burden of proof requires the objector to provide documentary evidence of the death or the fraud. How does Mr. Nandlall expect death certificate of Guyanese who have died? How do I expect them to get death certificate? How do I expect them to overcome these insurmountable hurdle? But first of all, you are making the allegation. You can't expect that the world will come to a halt because you are making an allegation. So if you are making an allegation in any civilized system, in any part of the world, if you are making an allegation, you have to put forward some evidence to support the allegation. Oh, even that you don't understand? And you want Nandlall to find you the evidence? I am not saying that the list got tens of thousands of people. You are. But you're calling upon me? How do I expect you to find the evidence to support the nonsense you are talking about? I don't know how you'll find the evidence. You are asserting the foolishness. You are saying to the population that the list got tens of thousands of dead people and tens of thousands of illegal people. And all I am saying to prove 1, and you can't do it. Now you turn the burden on me, and you're asking me how I will expect you to do it? What is wrong with you people? And you know, the truth of the matter is that they don't read anything. You know, it's a very simple process to make an objection. They're claiming that they have to produce documentary evidence. The burden of proof, however, requires the objector to provide documentary evidence. That is not true. They never even read the law. The law doesn't require them to do that. All they have to do is to lodge an objection and pay $5. That is all that they have to do. A date will be fixed at a later stage where a hearing will be done. And it is at the hearing stage that you provide whatever evidence you may have. It doesn't have to be documentary evidence either. You could know that Mary Jane is dead and you could bring evidence, persons who attended her funeral. You can bring her neighbor to say that she's dead. You don't have to produce her death certificate. Let me explain to the public how this process works. It is in section 22, 23 of the National Registration Act. Go to the National Registration Act, it is online. It is from section 23, I think, all the way to about 28. So you lodge in each registration division, when the list is published, the preliminary list, you look at the list and you lodge the objection to the names that you think should not be on the list. And the list is divided into registration centers, divisions. So right across the country, you have several divisions. So in each division, you have a registrar. So if the PNC says on the division on the east coast of Demerara, you have 1,000 people who should not be on the list, well, they got to go and find the 1,000 names and lodge the objection to the 1,000 names with the registrar for that area. If it is 2 persons they are claiming should not be there, they lodge the objection against the 2 names. All the objections for that division will be collated in the end, and the list will be published and put on buildings in the registration areas. And they will put there for the whole village or the whole registration area to see all the names that are being objected to. A period is given for that scrutiny to take place. Upon the expiration of that period, then that registrar of GCOM, every division has a registrar, will then fix a time and a place to do a public hearing. And each claim will be heard. So if you have 5,000 claims, you can hear them together. And you bring your witnesses. They have not put forward one claim. And as I said, there is no requirement either at the lodgement of the claim or the objection or at the hearing for any written documentary evidence to be produced. You can prove many things without documents. But they are so lazy, they are so incompetent that they want to sit on their laurels and make wild, foolish, hairy-scary objections, condemnations on the electoral process because they know that they will lose. That is what they're doing. I'm not finished yet. They go on to say, oh, how do I expect them? How does Nandlall expect them to prove that persons got citizenship illegally? How? If you are saying that persons got citizenship illegally, don't you have to show some evidence upon which you have come to that conclusion? You want me to say You are telling the country that you got thousands of illegal citizens on the list. That's one of your contention. But you don't want to provide any evidence that these people are illegal, they obtain their citizenship by fraud. Do you know the process by which a person gets citizenship? You have to look at their passport, their date of entry. They have to be in Guyana between 5 to 7 years. Continuously in Guyana. You just want to say that there are 10,000 citizens illegally here and we must accept that? You don't want to prove nothing at all? And then when I raise an objection to your ridiculous claim, you're asking me, how do I expect you to prove it? Why did you say it? Why did you make the allegation in the first place? In civilized society, this is not how processes take place. You have to go in the jungle where you make allegations and you don't have to prove anything. But then it reminds me that up to now, you maintain that you won the last elections and you can't produce your statement of claim, statement of poll. It is the same principle all over again. You claim that you won the elections, but up to now, Granger have never seen the statements of poll. Aubrey Norton have never seen the statements of poll. Nigel Hughes have never seen the statements of poll. Who saw, who really saw these statements of poll? And where are they? Where is this deep guarded secret of yours? And you're running around the place saying that you won the elections and you want people to take you seriously. Then they come with this bogeyman story that they submitted a list of people who should not have voted. They submitted it to GCOM, who should not have voted at the elections and who voted. And they want me, GCOM had sent the list to me and I sent it to the police. Now they're holding me responsible. They make up a fictitious list of people and they expect me to spend my valuable time to run behind that. I have no time nor energy to investigate these concoctions of yours. I was standing right there when Amna Ali concocted an allegation and tell me to my face that I was distributing ID card on elections day in 2020. You remember that? So I don't need second hand and third hand to tell me your capability of fabricating stories. Amna Ali looked at me in my face and said that I was distributing ID card on elections day. Basil Williams was right there. They looked at me and fabricated a lie to my face with a camera rolling. So I know you very well. You're not going to send me over some concocted list. You lie to me, lie about me, lie on me to my face. And the whole country saw that. And you expect me to run behind some list that you fabricated? And I recall very distinctly that there were hundreds of people whom you claim were in America and were all over the place and could not have voted. And those people came one by one on Facebook. They went to the television stations. They went to the newspapers and they made their story public. That they are here in Guyana, that they voted, and that you are lying on them. You think people will forget all of that? You think people will forget all of that? So they will continue this concocted, demented narrative about rigged elections. Remember, you got to go back to 2020 elections, and if I have to do it every Tuesday night from now till election, I will do it. Remember, after the close of polls, they announced very happily that they won the elections. The pollings were done very smoothly. Remember that? And it's when they realized, when they checked the statements of poll, and they're now hiding. When they checked the statements of poll and realized they lost, hell broke loose. That's when they slipped the spreadsheet into Ashman's building to give Mingo to read out wrong results. And then they turn up. They tried to block the recount. Remember that? They didn't want the recount to take place. They fumigate all over the place. They started to cuss President Granger when he agreed to the recount. And then when they turn up on the recount, they start this fishing exhibition. All kind of madness. All kind of madness. And their own observers. Remember, they stopped Carter Center from coming in. They said they stopped planes from leaving and coming into the country. They say only one observer they will trust to observe the recount. Remember that? The CARICOM observer team. And when the CARICOM observer team, having observed the results, they chose them. They chose the CARICOM observer team. And when the people have given them the report, and the people have said that they were fishing, they were on a fishing expedition, they're making up allegations of dead people voting. They're making up allegations. The people have said the words were, they spread their net so wide, they caught very little. The people destroyed them, completely destroyed them in their report. And it is that same discredited narrative they're running about with. And up to now, they're peddling about some statutory documents missing from 40 polling boxes. And they're putting that at my doorstep. And I've explained about 100 times on this program that Mingo was the returning officer. And from Better Hope to LBI, the presiding officer, the DRO for that area, the Deputy Returning Officer, gave the presiding officers an instruction to put those documents in a separate bundle and send them to Mingo. And those documents were sent for 40 ballot boxes. Mingo called me on the phone and confirmed that he received it and it was a mistake. It was not supposed to be put in the envelope that they put in. But that didn't affect the people's ballot. How would that affect the validity of the ballot? How will I ever lose my right to vote if I put the X next to the palm tree on the ballot and I put it in the ballot box? And some election agent or some presiding officer decide not to put some document that got nothing to do with my vote into some envelope that it's supposed to go into. The fact that that document was put in some wrong envelope would invalidate my vote? Is that the law? Are these people mad? And they were fighting. They don't want the ballots from those boxes to be recounted. If they were a recount is simply a count of what took place on election night. That is why it is called a recount. There was a count already at all the polling stations the night. And that's how you get the statements of poll. A recount is a count back of what was counted. It's as simple as that. So the recount got nothing to do with statutory documents. A recount is a count of the ballots that were counted the night before, the night of elections. That is what an election is about a count of ballots, a count of votes. Nothing else matters in an election. Everything else is secondary. The primary document is the ballot of the citizen. And an election is a collation of the ballots of the citizenry. What statutory documents got to do with the validity of a ballot? But these are the sideshows to distract, and they got a stupid bunch of people following them. I think some of them know better, but they are feeding the Kool-Aid. They are feeding the Kool-Aid to those who are lining up to drink. To those who are lining up to drink. And they already know that they can't win any elections. So from now to the elections, they have committed themselves to a path of destruction, obfuscation, and confusion. That's all that they're going to do. From now, mark my words. I've said it before and I'm reiterating it here. From now to the next election, that is all that they will do. They will confuse every issue out there. So they're going to continue this foolishness about biometrics. That biometrics will solve all the problems in the world. Nothing is wrong with our system. And I am saying to you, they want biometrics so that they could rig the elections with the biometrics. Because that's the only way that they can win. They can only win by stealing. It is as simple as that. They have never won an election, they don't know how to win an election, and they're not sensible enough to win an election. You can't put forward these arguments that they're putting forward and expect anybody, sensible people, to take you seriously. Yes, you will got the Kool-Aid drinkers on your side, but those are the only people that you will have on your side, and they can't take you home. They can't take you across the winning line. So the more you come up with these arguments, the more ridiculous you will sound. And it is my job and our job to expose these things. And I'm sorry if I have to repeat them, these arguments, over and over again, but I will do it to ensure that these arguments must not ever remain on the public record without a repudiation. So I hope that I have explained to you very clearly that they have not read the law in relation to claims and objections. They don't understand the process. They do not care to understand it. And they have not been able to put forward a single case, not 10,000, one case of an unlawful person on this list. If they are able to, the Constitution is very clear, you know, who is to be on the list and who is not to be on the list. And once they can show that a person is on the list who should not be on the list, that's the end of the matter. It's a very simple exercise. But you can't be at Congress Place and every Friday on TV, on Facebook, and say that the tens of thousands should not be on the list, but they are there. And you're not producing a scintilla of evidence to support what you are saying. The world doesn't operate like that. Human affairs are not conducted in such a vacuous, incompetent manner. So I want to move on to another issue that I see continues to make the news. And it is this dispute. Well, not dispute. The contention of the town clerk, the contention of the mayor, that the land where the hotel is going to be constructed is owned by the city council. And he keeps repeating this allegation and threatening to go to court for the past year and a half. I don't know whether he wishes to intimidate the investors or what is his intention. But a year and a half of bluff is all that we have seen. As I said, As Attorney General, I had the responsibility of reviewing the documents. The Lands and Surveys Commission also assisted in the review of the documents, which include transports, plans, surveyors' plans of the area. We know what part is owned by the state. We know what part was given by the state as a license to which agency. We know what part was given by the state by lease to which agency. We also know that there is a part not far from there that is not owned by the state, that was gifted to the city council. And that part is not the part where the hotel is. And it is so clearly demarcated and delineated on the plans that are considered conclusive evidence of the boundaries of the area. And that is why over a year ago or more, when I heard the mayor speak about this issue, I invited him to go to the court or consult a sensible lawyer. I don't know whether he had done either of the two, but he continues to make these statements. So that's another non sequitur, a non-issue that is being peddled in the public domain. Somebody said Yubraj is trying, somebody in the, when I ask you all to comment, please comment intelligently. Somebody wrote here that Yubraj is trying to be Mahatma Gandhi. Please do not desecrate the Mahatma. Don't do that. The last issue that I want to speak about, and remember, share the program. Share the program so that all your viewers and your listeners and your friends, your followers can join in tonight's discussion. The last issue that I want to talk about briefly is something that has made the news over the past 2 weeks. And it is the perception index that was done by Transparency International that gave Guyana a particular rating in respect of corruption in public office. Now, I have no problem with international agencies or local agencies that are the watchdogs of society. I believe that governments and the public process should be the subject of critical scrutiny. I believe that if there is corruption, it should be stamped out. I believe that those who are implicated in corruption should be investigated, and where evidence found, charged. They should be charged. I am the minister responsible for the anti-money laundering, countering the financing of terrorism regime in Guyana, and that infrastructure, a large part of that infrastructure deals with ensuring against corruption, fraud, money laundering, organized crimes, etc. I headed Guyana's 4th round mutual evaluation, peer assessment, which was conducted by the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force. A team spent over 3 weeks in Guyana and then made several visits. That team examined various agencies across the public sector spectrum, from the Bank of Guyana to the Gold Board to the Guyana Revenue Authority, the Ministry of Natural Resources, Geology and Mines Commission, the Deeds and Commercial Registry Authority, the Securities Council, a number of agencies in the public sector, and grilled those agencies, took from those agencies an abundance of information which they requested and scrutinized them, examined critically the working apparatus and the management structure and the mechanisms that are in place to guard against illicit activities, money laundering, bribery, corruption. All these sectors were examined for that. Officers of these sectors were grilled. As I said, the managerial and administrative framework of these agencies were examined. The private sector was interviewed. The commercial banking sector was interviewed and examined. Our laws were examined. And when that preliminary report came out, we were given an opportunity to respond to it. And we did. And then we had to go to Trinidad and defend it at a forum that involved 25 different jurisdictions. And we had to defend our report, where we were grilled by 25 different countries. And in the end, Guyana came out with the highest score in the independent CARICOM region. Now, that is a process that I respect. That is a process that is thorough. That is a process that is constructive, professional, diligent, and fair. This perception index done by Transparency International is the complete opposite of that. They have prepared a report and they have rated Guyana. And we have not been interviewed. We have not had an opportunity to make an input. We were not even offered the courtesy of being informed that such an undertaking was taking place. Now, in any system in the civilized world, you ought not to make a damning, negative, or condemnatory finding against any person, agency, or entity that may cause that person, agency, or entity any reputational, actual, or consequential or financial loss or damage without affording that person, before notifying the person that you are conducting this undertaking, and affording that person a fair and reasonable opportunity to respond. That is what is called in law natural justice. But it is not confined to law. It's confined to any process whereby someone can suffer a detriment. You have to hear that person. You have to afford that person the right to defend the allegation. You have to give him reasonable opportunity to do so. If he wishes to bring his own witnesses, that is a facility to which you have to extend to him. That is how fairness and law and justice operates. Imagine if the government is to make findings every day on people's business and conclude the way that Transparency International has concluded on Guyana, concluded on people's business, without even informing the people that we are conducting such an exercise, or without extending to them the facility of fair representation or the facility of a hearing, but announce publicly that their business is corrupt. Imagine what will happen to those private businesses and how they will react to the government. We will be taken to court and sued for millions because we would have transgressed the law. We would have acted arbitrarily. We would have acted maliciously. We would have acted capriciously. We would have acted unlawfully. We would have acted contrary to the rules of natural justice. If we ever do that, every day we are being sued for those very reasons. The population is claiming that we have treated them unfairly. Somebody in the population. We have not given them a fair hearing. And if you want to see our willingness to address corruption, just look at the Calvin Brutus case. An assistant commissioner of police who the opposition said was in the PPP's camp was very close to the government. Today he has been dismissed and slapped with over 240 criminal charges. That is evidence of a willingness and preparedness to confront corruption. So you cannot have a system that condemns an entire country's financial structure and public sector operations, and that country is not offered an opportunity to be heard or to respond. Worse yet, is not even offered the courtesy of being informed that such a process is going to take place. I am saying to you that if the government ever does that, we will be maligned publicly and we will be sued in the courts. And I dare say rightfully so, because every person, every entity, every agency is entitled to fair treatment, to justice, and that is what fair treatment and justice entails. My operator is signaling to me that we have come to the close of program time. I want to thank you very much for staying with me over the past hour. I think that we have covered a lot of important issues. I thank you very much. Enjoy Mahashivaratri tomorrow, and I will join you next week as we resume our discussion. Please enjoy the rest of the evening. Take care, and I'll see you next week. May God bless you. Thank you.